I'm Megan, and you're listening to Knick Knack Goes to the Movies, the one-stop shop podcast for all things movie, TV, and pop culture.
Turns out he's a major cinephile. They don't watch enough movies! It's a very simple formula! And here we go. Well, loyal listeners, it only took 4 episodes to have our first guest for season 3 of Knick Knack Goes to the Movies, and it's a super special occasion that we're going to have here and movie. You've heard me mention the Scream franchise a ton of times overall, probably every season of this podcast. These scary pop culture movies got me into the horror genre itself. First, it was The Walking Dead, and now look at me go. I can't get enough of Halloween, Friday the 13th, and everything in between. But Scream has a special place in my heart, as well as the guest I'm going to have here. And while I've yet to take on the previous 4 movies or the 3-season TV show, I'm excited to take on the latest meta movie. And I'm not alone in this. Joining me on this journey is someone who was in the entertainment world with me way back when, in 2013. It probably feels like ages ago, at the one and only Conan. Welcome to the show, Megan Clembeth. Megan, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're really jumping into the foray of your podcast. It's your first one, right?
It is my first one.
Well, it could be the first of many. We'll see what the critics have to say. So before we get into the episode, the standard operating procedure with guests such as yourself, we have some fun icebreakers to really let our listeners get a feel for who you are and, more importantly, what you watch. So, first one, last movie you have seen in theaters. What is it?
Okay, so funny enough, the past 2 movies I've seen in theaters were Scream 1 and Scream 5. Back in October, I went to the 25th anniversary screening, which was so cool because I've never seen Scream in theaters, obviously, and the audience reaction was so much fun.
I'll tell you, I can't say I had I think the last one I did was probably Scream 2. I don't think there's been any good movies that I can think of in the last month. I don't know. Do you want to see is Death on the Nile or Uncharted or anything coming out that you're interested in?
I don't know if I'm that interested in those, but I will say I'm very excited for Marry Me. I love a good JLo film, and I know it sounds goofy, but you know what you're going to get. They're always going to be enjoyable.
I can't say it's my genre. I will say I'm curious about Owen Wilson in a rom-com. That feels like a weird cast, but I could see it working, right?
I feel like it might be able to work. JLo doesn't really do failures, you know?
I think the last JLo one I saw was is it Hustlers? Something with money? Is
Yes, the stripper one.
the stripper
Hustlers.
one? Yes. I remember being like, okay, I liked Cardi B though. Love Cardi B. Who doesn't?
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing.
Big fan of Cardi B.
Me too.
Good, we're on the same vein here. But beside doing your research and seeing these screams, what did you watch? What's in the queue? Be it, I'm assuming streaming apps, right?
Oh, for sure. I don't have cable. Right now I'm watching Succession, 1883, Euphoria, Pam and Tommy, and maybe every single show on Bravo.
Wow, you are really diving in on the media world. That's good. I feel like I'm slacking here.
I know. Well, I try to watch something when I'm on the treadmill. I try to watch something at night. I'm really bringing in the TV.
It's good. One of us has to. I don't even know what I'm watching right now? Big into the Korean zombie shows. I think it's called All of Us Are Dead. And it's like a zombie show, but they're in school. And it's like, okay, it's kind of different. It sounds like it'd be kind of whatever, but there's some pretty good zombie things coming out of Asia in general, I would say. So I don't know if that's your bag or not, but I'll tell you, it's pretty good.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if I've ever experienced that.
I would say if you're going to start with anything, there's a movie you should start with. You do have to do subtitles called Train to Busan. I don't know if you like to read your movies or not, but if you can live with it, that's the OG one.
Okay. Good to know.
Are you a scary movie person outside of, the Scream, or I don't know where you rank in that stuff?
I would say in between.
Okay.
Like I see a good amount of them.
I'd say the last big fun icebreaker is, and this could be from forever, right? This could be from your childhood. This could be from something like a week ago, whatever it is. What's something that if you were to give your elevator pitch to someone should watch this thing right now, unrelated to Scream, what would it be?
Okay. I recently binged Yellowstone for the first time. And oh my God, it's incredible. The characters are so well developed. I am so obsessed with it. The actors are amazing, the performances, it's beautiful. I want to go move to a ranch. I would recommend it to everybody. It's such a brilliant show.
Okay, so it's a little westernish, right? That's kind of the vibe.
Definitely a little westernish, and I'm not a Western fan at all, but it is just so well done, and you get so invested in the characters. Kevin Costner is amazing. They all are amazing, but him especially.
He's a big name. I don't know if there's a lot of westerns out. The last one I can remember is probably like no one. I don't know anyone else who's seen the show. Hell on Wheels. It was AMC's like cowboy show with Common. It was about railroads. It was okay. It was fine.
I haven't seen, I don't normally seek them out. I'm not going to lie. It's just so many of my friends and family were binging it and I had to get on the train and oh my, I was so happy.
I'm trying to think if I would recommend something to someone right now. I'd say, it might be a little too close to home. There's a pandemic show, but it came out like 2013. It was before, and it was about vampires. It's called The Strain, and Corey Stoll is in it from the first Ant-Man and from House of Cards. That's the bald guy. He's bald in like everything, I think.
That sounds so familiar. I didn't see it, but that sounds so familiar.
It's interesting to see a pandemic like I think I started during it's like so it was a little too maybe it was too early to start it, but now that we kind of are acclimated to it, it's not and it's little it's vampires, it's not real, assumedly, right?
That is true.
Don't think it's a documentary. So to the meat and potatoes of this episode, the real entree. I think it's funny in comparison. I don't know if this necessarily feels like when you watch the movies, right? You said you're kind of in the middle ground of horror. There's a TV show that MTV has put out, some of it, VH1, all the classic reality TV shows that you wouldn't think would make anything other than, I don't know, Flavor of Love. And when you watch the TV show, it's somehow more aggressive, and I never would have seen that coming in a million years. I think I was weirdly more scared to watch the show when I was like in the infancy of horror Nick. But obviously we're here to talk about the movie, the 2022 one. I'm sure we'll dabble, especially because you've recently seen the original film in all school or in the theater after all. But I have to ask, Megan, have you seen either of the shows, either the 2 seasons on VH1 or the 1 season on MTV?
Okay, I watched a couple episodes of the season on MTV. And I don't know if I was just too busy at the time or if I couldn't get into it, but I never got past like episode 2 or 3. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't fully, I feel like Scream, the characters are so amazing and it wasn't the same for me.
I think that's, I mean, when you have, the trifecta, right? Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Neve Campbell, and literally so many other people have had like small little roles that we'll talk at some point about, but like, I was more Keke Palmer, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think like that, like her Scream Queen stuff too. I don't know if you ever saw Scream Queens.
Okay, Scream Queens was amazing. I enjoyed every moment of Scream Queens because she was in that too. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just couldn't get into the Scream TV show, but Scream Queens highly recommends.
What if I told you there's discussions of a season 3?
Oh, I would be so happy. I would 100% be there premiere night, sitting on my couch.
I'm right there with it. We can hold out hope for Scream Queens coming.
Yes. I feel like it was such a fan favorite.
It was too weird for its own good, but I I loved it. I was a huge fan of how weird it was.
I did too. It was just so fun and so goofy.
It should be fun, right? I mean, I'm not here watching Saw movies. Like, that's not fun. But Scream Queens, that was fun. You can say it was maybe not the best show, but you could always say it was fun.
Yeah. And really, that's all that matters.
I'm right there with you. So to the current movie at hand, Scream, I know it's the original title, but we'll call it Scream 5. So it came out in 2022. It's a requel, which is a term that I've never heard that term before, sequels, prequels, everything in between. But I think, the term it goes, it's a soft reboot. It's a reboot, but they're still kind of keeping with the continuity. And from The Matrix Resurrections, probably the only good thing that came from that movie. I mean, maybe that's a hot take for you, but I thought Matrix Resurrections was awful. I don't know. So Megan, Matrix Resurrections, yay, nay? Have you seen it? What's your take on this?
Okay, I actually didn't see it. I honestly didn't have any interest. It, for some reason, I just didn't call out to me. But I've heard from some people that it's not too bad. Like for a reboot, it wasn't as bad as they expected. I don't know. It didn't sell me enough to go actually watch it. What did you think?
I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I've heard not even mixed. I've heard varying opinions on it, and I don't know. I hated it. I think you did okay not watching it, and I'm shocked that so many people saw it differently. But movies are objective. No, there's no. It's not math. None of us want to get into math. That's for sure. But I gotta, the one thing that came out of this for sure, the conversation of keeping sequels but trying to start new things going, and I think when that movie, the thing I really hated was it didn't bring back the staple pieces, or at least a lot of them. There was no Lawrence Fishburne, Hugo Weaving. I mean, that's your bread and butter. I mean, obviously, Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu. Look, we all love Keanu nowadays, obviously. But with Scream, we'll call it Scream 5, right? You're cool, Scream 5. We'll just brand it that way.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good. So I don't think, like you said, kind of actually about the TV show thing, Scream's not Scream without, that true big three of actors that have kind of rolled with the franchise since 1996 all the way till now. They're all still in it. So I know you're a Friends person. Courtney Cox. You were pretty big on probably Courtney Cox before I knew anything about her. I would say I don't really know any of these actors outside of Neve Campbell for a super random movie in the 90s called The Craft, which is like a really random one of those movies you come across on like Freeform's 31 Nights of Halloween and you'll never see it again in your life. And apparently one episode of Mad Men. How about that? But how familiar with you with any of these three, the Courtney Coxes, David Arquette, Neve Campbell, outside of Scream?
Yeah, so I definitely loved Courtney Cox, obviously. I always identified myself as a Monica, which was her character on Friends. So I love that. Neve Campbell, I briefly knew from Party of Five. I've seen a bunch of those episodes a long time ago, so I kind of knew her from that. And David Arquette, I knew as Courtney Cox's husband. And I was going to say baby daddy, but ex-husband and father of her kid. Other than that, I don't really know many other projects they've been in. It was such an interesting pivot too for Courtney Cox to do horror from a sitcom, which I found so interesting, but also so brilliant.
I mean, that's like people knowing Jamie Lee Curtis from Freaky Friday and nothing else.
Yeah, it is true. And she's another one. Halloweens are great.
So also, am I getting her name wrong? Is it Neve? How did you say her name? Because I don't know how to say it now.
Oh, I said Neve Campbell. I thought it was Neve Campbell. What else could it be? Neve?
I thought it was Neve, but I'm going to look quick. What the heck? Neve?
Okay, neither of us were right.
There's no way that's how it's Neve. That's shot. She's Canadian. Did you know that?
I did not. I've never heard it pronounced that way.
All right. I found a clip from Conan. Holy heck, he said Neve. Okay. We're going to roll with Neve.
I was right.
It is Neve Campbell. So Megan, congrats. We checked with our old boss Conan from 2004 and he said Neve. So clearly you're his favorite intern if you got the name right. Jeez, good work, Megan.
Thank you.
So now that we know how to say her name, I think we were talking a little bit about this before we started. The last time I had a guest on, we talked about I'd say probably a scarier franchise in The Conjuring. I think some might say that's a little spookier. But today we got something a little less scary. But like you said, sometimes you just want to watch fun things, and this is a horror movie that's fun, a franchise that I would say is fun. The general gist of these is, people like you and I, we know our scary movies, and we're in this world that we're like in a scary movie, right? Which is a fun, unique concept. A ton of sequels. I mean, this is the fifth after all, and some of the actors to come out of this. I mean, Buffy's own Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think people forget Henry Winkler was in one of these. The late Carrie Fisher, American Horror Story mainstay Emma Roberts. I don't know if he'd like to be known for Scooby-Doo, but Matthew Lillard, that's what I know him from. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? Hayden Panettiere, Liev Schreiber, Alison Brie, Anthony Andrews, Drew Barrymore. I mean, I don't know how it felt when you watched it again, but that still is like such a, I guess, 90s us. That was a shocking thing where this Hollywood A-lister was like gone in like 5 minutes in this movie. I mean, that's crazy. That was what set the movie, I think, kind of on like, oh, these are kind of different, right? These are cool and unique things. So while the formula has been a little bit similar, I don't know if it ever feels stale to me. I mean, it plays on its own pop culture references and horror and other genres. So, Megan, I don't know how familiar you are with all five. I know you saw 1 and 5 recently. I honestly forget about 4 way more often than I feel like I should. What was your favorite of the 5 and why?
Ooh, I actually also recently watched 4, but that is not my favorite. I would say I truly love the original. I feel like it's so iconic. It still holds up so well. And that opening scene is so good. And it builds up such a slow, terrifying tension that the rest of the movie follows. And you just can't beat that. It's, in my eyes, it's a perfect movie. I know not everyone feels that way, but I truly love the original.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with 1. I think 1 is great. 3, I like the idea of 3, especially like after the California. I mean, for you, it's your whole life, but for me, like the trip to California and being on like, the WB lot and kind of being around, like I enjoyed the entertainment pieces of it. I mean, 3 is kind of probably the weirdest one of the 5.
3 was the one where they were shooting Stab in the movie, right?
Yep. It was in
I
your
haven't seen
backyard.
that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was our life working on the sound lot. I think I like 2. I think people sleep on 2, the college campus one, especially. I don't know how much you remember the Jerry O'Connell singing moment.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to YouTube that after this. I do not remember it that well, but I feel like I haven't seen that movie in years.
You do. He gets on a table at the cafeteria and starts singing "I Think I Love You," and it's like the perfect. It's like '90s cheesy, but it's not like Top Gun, where the whole thing is like too cheesy for '90s, I would say.
Ooh, I'm gonna rewatch that this week.
Good. That's homework. You thought you were done. Joke's on you. So, follow up, when we were talking, because it had been a while, right? Scream 4, Scream 5, big gap, even the same way where Scream 3, Scream 4, big gap. You were pretty like immediately excited when we were texting on the Conan alumni intern group chat for this one to come out and talk about it. You were just excited for it to come out. Little did you know, podcast debut here. But what got you into the Scream franchise?
Okay, so my roommate Nick is a diehard Scream fan. It's his favorite franchise of all time. So a few years back, he was like, "Wait, you've never seen these movies?" And he sat me down and I started watching them for the first time. And it was just so cool to watch them, obviously, and then see all the passion through his eyes and how obsessed he was with Gale Weathers and just all the characters. And I quickly realized I was missing out and became just as obsessed. So when they announced Scream 5, I honestly knew about it for months and months before because he is so obsessed. I heard about every Reddit thread, every this, every that. And I was just so excited. The movies are just so fun and so goofy and scary, but also really comical. And I just love them.
I feel like they're approachable. It's an approachable scary movie. You're not going to just jump into like, I don't know, one of those Exorcist movies. That's like jumping into the deep end, like with a barbell, like chained around you. Like you're either like it or hate it. Scream, you can kind of ease into the genre, I feel like, which is how I felt at least when I saw it.
Yeah, it's such a good balance. And I feel like it's kind of opened that door for me where now I've seen obviously a lot scarier ones, but I still kind of prefer the balanced ones, the ones that are kind of like goofy and funny.
What's the scariest thing you've seen? I know what mine is. I'm curious what yours is now, though.
It's an older one, but the Blair Witch Project always freaks me out. What's the other one? It Follows is also pretty scary. Honestly, half of those movies, I feel like I was hiding behind my hands. I don't even know if I fully got the experience. What about you?
Oh man. Either I freshman year I saw 4 minutes of like an unfinished of an unfinished Saw movie that was just disgusting. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I was like freshman Nick. I came to learn about the industry and it's like surprise Saw, and I didn't like it. I wasn't ready. I was probably scared of like for a while. I didn't want to watch Pirates of the Caribbean as a kid because I was scared of it because there were zombies. And yeah,
That movie did scare me as a kid.
that's rare. Most people just laugh, like your initial reaction. But it's nice that we have that shared scary skeleton things. I wasn't about it as a kid. I got over it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'd say that, and then The Nun. I hated The Nun.
I Did not see The Nun.
You don't need
I
to.
haven't seen Saw either. I haven't had the urge.
You don't need to. I don't think you need to see either of those things. There are some good Conjuring movies, but you can just skip if you really want to see a creepy ass nun thing. You can just watch The Conjuring 2, and instead of getting a whole movie about this thing, you can see like it kind of be there. But that's scared. I was like doing the interview part, and I was like, every time I heard a sound, I was like, if I just die on this podcast, tell my stories. I was that scared. It was horrible. Yeah, scary stuff.
Movies are scary.
Yeah, creepy nuns. I mean, I don't like spiders as big as houses. That's never good, obviously. Like the Harry Potter, I always skip that scene. Lord of the Rings, I always skip that scene. I know when they come. We're done with it. Scary things. But this franchise, not as scary, right? It's fun, like we're saying. And I think if you like this franchise, and maybe you weren't in the right mindset for the TV shows, but they are all available on Netflix, and they're in the proper order. And I like to think I had a little bit to do with this. So there was always like in the order they came out. So 3, 2, 1. So if you ever wanted to watch anything in the order, it was annoying. I kept messaging Netflix like multiple times. And when I checked like 3 months ago, it was fixed. I've got to take a little credit for it. Like, right, what can you say except you're welcome, right? From Moana. It's a Disney movie, maybe. Yeah.
Such a good movie.
I
love that song. I still listen to it sometimes.
On the loop, I've been listening to Surface Pressure from Encanto, like just that song at work on like this loop. And sometimes I do the whole soundtrack, but we'll do a Disney one later. I feel like you could have a ball with. Do you think Jesse would be on board for a Disney one? We'd do a 3-person podcast.
Yeah, I feel like she would be. Disney movies are always so fun.
Who doesn't like Disney?
And the tracks are always so good.
It's the music's the most important part, I would say. Fun fact, the second most popular episode of this podcast is about Disney movie music. So people know what they like. So we could revisit it as with new people and get new musical perspectives. I think, all right, stamp it, lock it in, Megan. That's the next one. Deal?
Let's do it.
You can convince Jesse. I mean, I'll try to, but you're literally like state neighbors. So I think that's easier for you.
I'll bring the wine over.
Yeah, you guys could have a whole party. I'll just have to sit with my water over here. Like we said, Keke Palmer's in there. I know you tried it. Maybe you'll take a stab at it again. Maybe you won't. But for listeners out there, it's not the same, but it tries, and it has the gist of the genre, I would say. So obviously, I would say this franchise, though, the one that we're talking about, the movies, not the shows, has some great Easter eggs and references to itself. I don't know if I recognize any of them. I don't think that's with any movie. You don't recognize all the things on the first rewatch, but like slashers, whodunits, all that, they're always better the second time because you know who the killer is, and you can kind of see if you can pick some things out that kind of make you think, oh, maybe they were teasing it all along. You didn't notice it. But I thought some of the things was like, Dewey's sisters in the first one. I forget who plays her, but she's like a known-ish actress too. And like her ashes were in his it was like a mobile home, right?
Yeah.
And I had no clue, like for the cop guy, I think everyone's known, whoever the cop in the third one is, like they made a brief like catch, like you miss it if you don't hear it once, that maybe she's married to him, when like they didn't even touch that in the fourth one. And that song, I don't know about you, when that song hit, the like that, when they played that again in the fifth one, I was like, oh heck yeah, they're putting it back in there. I mean, even the Lemon Squares thing, and like that, like I said, that movie didn't even, the fourth one's kind of a weird one, but when like they're making jokes about our lemon squares, and in our fridge it's the lemon square, like it was attention to detail. I think I was really happy. But of all these things, and maybe you found stuff I didn't recognize, like what like things did you pick up on that you're like, oh, Scream 2 right there, I know that kind of stuff?
Okay, well, I definitely noticed the lemon squares, but I think it was because Scream 4 was fresh in my mind. I liked how in the opening scene, how Tara was playing with the knives, which was super similar to Drew Barrymore in the opening of the original. But I don't know if it's not really an Easter egg, but I really liked when they mentioned Psycho in the film and it cut to Wes in the shower because it was such a fun spin. Normally it's like the hot blondes in the shower and it's normally only females. And this time they did it with a guy, which was so fun. Um, and I also like that they've really built up Sydney's character. She's gone from being victim in the first movie to this like protective, empowered female warrior, which was really cool. And she just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And what was that line? There was the line, it was like, of course I'm Sydney, or I'm Sydney Prescott. Of course I have a gun. That was so good because I mean, based off the other movies, that wouldn't always be the case.
I mean, I think and even like, I think at the end when her and Gail both like come up with their guns and they're like, I think she's faking it. And then like, they like kind of know that she's faking it. And like Gail still got shot, but like the fact they just kind of had done this so long, they're like, oh yeah, that's probably they knew. Gosh, they play off each other so much. And I don't know if you saw the Bates Motel show on A&E, like way back when.
I did not, but I would always see them on the NBC lot if I would walk around. They would always there's that area where the guy comes out and loads his car. I don't know if you've done the studio tour. I never did it. I've only just walked around the lot at lunch to kill time.
Classic.
Yeah, to get out of the office, you really gotta
get some cardio.
Yeah, get some sun, vitamin D.
Gosh, if only I'd taken vitamin D gummies. That's how I get it here.
Honestly, I'm in California and I'm the same.
It's all similar to some degree. Oh yeah. So in the show Bates Motel, they do kind of like you said, a gender swap. So the big thing in like the last season, I don't even remember how many seasons they had, was Rihanna was in it, which was like, why is Rihanna on this A&E show, right? So she was Marion, which is like the main
big deal. Okay, now I'm like, how did I not watch that?
Yeah, I don't know why I was. I mean, it was Freddie Highmore's like big coming out party of like he's an actor that people should keep an eye on, and Vera Farmiga, and she's pretty good.
Yeah.
But so Rihanna was like this big. They're like, oh, Rihanna. I was like, okay, that's like the biggest name they've ever had on this show. That's cool. And so she was Marion, and I mean, I don't know if you're gonna watch it now, so I don't know if I'm gonna spoil it.
I feel like I have to because it's Rihanna.
You do. I guess I won't say anything then because you're gonna actually watch it.
No, tell me because it might take me a while and then I'll forget before I watch.
That's fair. So they do because in obviously in Psycho she dies, right? Marion dies in the shower, right? She took the money and is in this motel, and that's how it all happens. Well, in this show, she does kind of the same thing. I think they make her a little more sympathetic, and she gets out, and the guy who comes looking for her is the guy who gets got. So they do the gender swap thing, not in the shower, but she does make it out alive, and it's like, oh, that's nice. Good thing Rihanna got there, and then she went on her way, and that was the end of it. But
oh wow, good for her.
You should watch it, but never knew why Rihanna was in an A&E show. That made no sense to me. But
yeah, it's pretty cool.
But I'm glad I could enlighten you on more Rihanna things, because I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I could be like, oh, who's better, Beyonce or Rihanna? But I don't know if we want to get into that debate. That might be a whole another thing.
I mean, I don't know if this will be popular opinion, but I personally would say Rihanna.
I would too. So I do have a full Rihanna CD. I have a Ponder Replay is and on physical copy from when I was a kid. So I hope we don't get too much hate, but I'm pretty pro Rihanna as well.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. I will say I did see Beyonce at Coachella and she was incredible. But I mean, we've been waiting for Rihanna to come back for so many years. So I think Rihanna will still do it better.
No time like the present, right?
Yeah.
When you get tickets, we'll make sure you have a ticket and then she can come.
Yeah, of course.
That's fair. I would say beside the gender swap thing that we saw here, because I thought it was cool, and he was blonde, so at least they kept some of that stuff going. But yeah. I mean, I definitely heard that. I was like, hell yeah. But the one thing I was like, because I was a Heroes guy, so I was like, well, we never really explored what happened to Hayden Panettiere, and there was all these rumors of, oh, she was still alive. No one ever talked about it, and I'm happy that they had like two like little moments, like maybe there was her name on like a voicemail, and then there was a little YouTube clip about someone surviving. So I was like, well, maybe she'll be back at some point down the road. I mean, people are always talking about, and I don't know how much you buy this, especially because you just saw one, that Matthew Lillard's Sue Mocker got the TV smash on his head is still alive. I don't buy that. Do you?
I've heard that rumor too. And I don't buy it, but I could see them trying to do it for maybe Scream 6 or Scream 7, but there's no way. I just don't think he survived that unless it's movie magic.
Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. He was in Scream 2 as an extra because he was dating how do you say her name now? Because you're the expert on Miss Campbell.
Nev Campbell.
Nev Campbell. Now I know because they were dating at the time. But apparently there was gonna be Scream 3, there was an early draft where he was gonna be back and kind of like a cult leader, and they were gonna have all these people be his disciples to go terrorize the remaining, Scream mainstays, and that was going to be the thing. And kind of almost exactly like The Following, which is that Kevin Bacon show with Sean Ashmore, that was kind of like dark and gritty. And I was like, it didn't end super exciting, but it was fun. It was dark for TV, that's for sure. On like Fox, like main Fox, not even FX.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that show. It was really dark.
I will one of these days. That's one I would love to go back to because it's been so long, and I feel like I'd be super, super curious about it now because it's so weird and dark, and it's like way darker than I would have expected. But I mean, obviously, also, and I don't know if this is one of those things that you don't know until you look it up. So the Stab 8 ghost face with the flamethrower and the metal mask was also still Matthew Lillard. So he like can't get away from the franchise. So.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
But and actually you mentioned it. How excited are you now knowing that Scream 6 is in production?
I am so excited. I do hope we get a Hayden Panettiere moment, but I hear she's retired from acting. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm hoping she isn't and comes back. But I just feel like this movie was such a fans movie and it celebrated the franchise so well. And it was such a step forward to kind of a new beginning and moving away from the legacy characters to start, I don't know, a new generation of them. Mm-hmm. So I am excited to see what they do. I really hope that we still get good cameos of the originals, but regardless, I'm very excited to see what they do and how they carry the franchise on.
I mean, like I said, I like the TV, like it's different, but I still like the bones of it that were in the TV show. So I'm hoping that, like you said, they keep the legacy, good legacy word of the character. They hope they keep them around, but let's see where else we can go. But I don't know if there's too many people like lingering around still that like could else drop in. Like I feel like they kind of showed most people outside of probably like Hayden Panettiere, I would say. But yes, are you a Heroes person? Were you about her in Heroes or no?
I did love Heroes. Remember I love her. I want her to come back.
Remember when they tried doing a reboot without her for fun? That was fun.
And like, it's a very vague memory, but I feel like it wasn't good.
No, it was weird that they didn't have like anybody like, or Milo Ventimiglia, like none of the like main, I guess they had a couple, but not those two. And those were like two of the main ones. So it's weird that they just didn't find a way to get them into it.
Yeah. I feel like it almost they became too big for it, but it ruins it without having them.
Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page. And like, I was like into Heroes way later, but I like was like, okay. Like, and Zachary Quinto, he wasn't in either. And those are like three big parts of Heroes.
Yeah. It's just not the same when they do stuff like that.
And he probably is too big for Heroes.
Yeah, I don't think I watched much of the reboot.
If you want to borrow it on DVD sometime, I'll ship it to you for some exorbitant shipping fees.
I love it.
So we're gonna have some spoilers ahead. I don't think we've done too many spoilers yet, but that's fine. I mean, it's been out for a bit. Now people are moving on to whatever other movies are coming out. But so spoilers ahead, warning anyway, just for fun. Who did you think the killers were, and how shocked were you with the reveal when it was all announced who they were?
Okay, I had a weird feeling that the girl was one of them. What's her name? The one from Better Things. Mm-hmm. I think her name's Amber, Mickey Madison's character. But I kind of had a weird feeling it was her. I don't know why, but I did not expect the boyfriend at all, which is shocking to me because thinking back, it was so obvious. I just thought it was going to be that girl Amber and potentially one of the other two girls, maybe Mindy or that redhead. Uh-huh. But the boyfriend went right over my head and I felt like such an idiot because now I'm like, okay, it was so obvious.
I just felt like when I heard Jack Quaid and like, I mean, I would say most people don't know who he, like, obviously, we know his dad, right? Dennis Quaid. But like other than like, okay, that first Hunger Games movie where he was a baby at that point, and The Boys, but that's it. I didn't know anything else. But I was like, well, I don't really know who any of these other people are in this movie. And his name just stands out like a sore thumb. And I was like, there's no way it's not him. And they tried real hard to make you think it wasn't him. Because for a while, you're like, okay, well, he's not even in Woodsboro. Um, so sure, maybe it would be weird to think how could he be a killer with that setup, right? How could he possibly be involved, you know? And I guess it's not always the boyfriend. I mean, it wasn't the first one. And I don't really know if we'd say, I mean, to a degree, maybe in other ones, but obviously wasn't the second. That was the Jerry O'Connell one, where the whole big thing was it can't possibly be him, but for a split second, she thought it was. But they tried real hard to make you think it wasn't him. Like, you know, I would say it blew my mind. Like when they did like, oh, it is him. They tried, like they said, oh, well, obviously he got attacked, right? I mean, but that's a fake out of we should have known. I guess it didn't always have to be a second killer. They're not all right. The third one didn't have two. The third one had just the one guy, the director guy. But I was clueless about the second one, and I really did think it was going to be a solo one. And you know, when they finally said this is Jack Quaid, I was like, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. That was my thought. But good on you for knowing the other one. Why did you suspect it was her?
That fridge scene really had me suspecting it. And then she was so weird in all the hospital scenes. And also she was really weird with the boyfriend too. But I don't know. She gave me weird vibes.
Because they were kind of fighting a bit. Obviously, it was all for show. And when they first met, they were kind of like, you know, they were going at it. But obviously, it's a ploy, a clever ruse, as it were.
Totally. Yeah, there was something about her.
I also don't know if anyone else was super duper memorable. Like, and not like in a bad way. I just don't know if like I could have picked a lot of the other, like they were fine, but I don't know if I would have been like, oh, it's that person or that person. They were just kind of there.
Yeah, that might have also been it. She was the only one who I feel like she had the most, and I don't know if it's screen time, just the most lines, and she was like the most involved. But I don't know. She's who I suspected. And now I really do feel like an idiot because the boyfriend one was so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I love that line. It's like he got it in one. He knew it immediately. And I thought that was because we love Dewey, of course, right? The one of the mainstays. So what do you think of them taking like ages to get to our, you know, I mean, we saw Dewey probably earlier on than the other two and a little bit of Sydney. Obviously, we saw Gale and Dewey a bit. You had to. And then eventually Sydney kind of came in. But what do you think about it taking so long to get to these originals and spending so much time with the new people?
I mean, honestly, it was a little rough. It was a little hard to get into at first. The beginning was so long, and I understood they had to set up the characters. But that moment when the OGs came back, it started feeling like a real Scream movie. But it was a long, long opening.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wanted it immediately, and it's fine. We didn't get it, but I mean, I guess even the fourth one took a bit too. Now that I'm thinking about it, because the fourth one did that weird thing where it's like fake, and then real with like everyone was like Lucy Hale, Pretty Little Liars, of course, classic.
Of course.
Who's the True Blood lady? Sookie. I don't know her real name.
I don't either.
Well, Sookie from True Blood. Anna Paquin.
Yes.
Anna Paquin. That's her name. When they started throwing all these people, it was like fake, then a real one. It was just a weird way to get into it. But it took ages to get to them. I feel like in that too, just a little bit.
I know, because that one, yeah, it did. I was really confused when I first started watching that one. I was like, what is happening? Well, who's in this movie? But
everybody's in this movie.
Literally everybody.
I mean, if they made like an aggressive thriller version of Pretty Little Liars, I'd be about it. I mean, I've been through the whole show. I to my, you know, shame to admit, I've seen every episode of Pretty Little Liars and The Perfectionist. Not good, but I know all the things, so no big deal.
I love it. I mean, you're a real stan out here.
Yeah, that's if I had to say like, well, what's your guilty pleasure? I'd probably have to say Pretty Little Liars because I'm absolutely embarrassed that I've seen all of that because it's bad dialogue and like it's like a bad show, but like I had to know. It hooked me in.
Yeah, no, it was a terrible show, but it was also terribly addicting. So I totally get it.
Glad we're on the same page. And And I will say, it did take a while to get to these, the original characters, but I guess they had a interesting way to kind of make it feel like, oh, well, they're related in a way. And like, maybe you didn't buy it for first, but I think by the end of it, I was kind of about it. Where like, oh, you know, obviously whoever the Deputy Hicks, I don't know her real name is, but she was there and her kid was there. And then Randy had some nieces, nephew things. And I guess the old guy in the car, the guy who was kind of hooking up with the one girl that one summer, he was Stu Macher's kid. Which once again, why would he be in there if maybe he was like it's just a weird. I feel like they're gonna bring it back. Like I know he got TV dropped on his head, but I feel like it's coming. But probably the most interesting thing was Skeet Ulrich coming back to reprise his role, and like he's super dead. Like there's no question that he was dead. As Billy Loomis as a vision for our new protagonist, Sam, which obviously that's a horror reference. Her last name's Carpenter, played by Melissa Barea, who did you see in the Heights? I don't know if are you musical, Megan? Is that your vibe?
I do like musicals, but I actually haven't seen In the Heights. I've heard it's really good, and I know I need to watch it, but I have not seen it yet.
I don't know if it's still on HBO or not, but I very much enjoyed it. Obviously Lin Manuel Miranda. It's a hard name to say. If that's a tongue twister. But yeah, so she was in that. I'd say I didn't really recognize her immediately, but she was in that. But I gotta say, when I saw the ghost vision thing, the immediate thing I thought of was the weird part in the third one with like Sydney's mom. And it's the one thing of every Scream movie that when I watch, I'm like, huh, because it's not like a supernatural franchise in any capacity. And it just always came off as weird. So I saw that. I was like, I don't know about this. But I guess they made it like, I mean, I don't know if the moral of the story is like, oh, embrace your serial killer parent heritage, but in like a good way. Did you buy this whole Skeet Ulrich thing?
I mean, it was definitely kind of weird, but I believed it, and I do think it helped her in the end. It almost like gave her that extra boost of courage, and it gave her that strength. And there's that, it kind of added that extra layer of a typical like final girl. I don't know, but it was definitely weird. And then I was like, is she just on drugs because she was popping pills? And I'm like, what is this supernatural? Is she just a drug addict? I don't know. But I do think in the end it helped her, and it gave her the strength she needed.
I got it was trying to be like the pills were like, oh, the pills are like trying to get the visions to go away. But like it's not like a weird thing. I think she was trying to treat something that wasn't something that she could treat with pills. And just they had to kind of find a way to personify it visually. But it was okay. I think when I saw the part where he was kind of like pointing, because she like super stabbed Jack Quaid like at the end, like super duper.
Yeah.
There were some aggressive parts in that, like more than I think I had expected, I'd say, like through the rest of the movie. But when I saw him kind of point, I thought he was pointing at like the umbrella thing, because there's that part in the first Scream where Sydney stabs him like with an umbrella, and but it didn't happen. But that was where at least my mind was.
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of want to see them. I don't know. I would like to see that angle again in future films, but it has to be done well, I guess.
Because that third one, I don't think did it well. I think that was weird AF.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page. So thankfully, we did eventually get it. To take, you said, a while. Dewey, Gale, and everyone, even Deputy Hicks, they're all around a bit. Obviously, I thought it was like sad to see Gale and Dewey not married, because the fourth one I remember starting out so strong, and like he gets out for bed, and then she's there, and obviously, we know what their real life relationship is, but it's a love story. People, I think, don't remember at times that Scream it's a romance novel at times, not always, but some little pieces in there. I feel like when we finally did get to see Dewey and kind of the new group, like they always have that scene where they're all like dissecting it, right? They're all trying to figure out whose it is, who's going on. And Heather Matarazzo was Randy's sister that we saw briefly also in that Weird 1-3. And I, for the life of me, couldn't tell who she was. And it's Princess Diaries is apparently where it's. I don't know anything else she's in, but I guess it, like in those no one probably knew her character. Everyone's more excited for Hayden Panettiere, but like I thought it was a nice touch, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I did. The first thing that I thought too when she came on screen was, oh my God, Lily from Princess Diaries. But it was a cool touch. I will say I learned this recently. The actress was in, have you seen Hostel 2?
I like to think I have a pretty good understanding of my horror tolerance. I don't know where Hostel lives. I feel like that's like the Patrick Stewart one where he's like green room. I just can't tell where those are. What is Hostel about?
So I actually have not seen the movie,
Okay.
but my roommate has, and he was telling me that it's one of the most horrific. It's just one of those horror death scenes that's like really stuck with him. So he told me to, because I don't think I could sit through the whole movie. It seems like it's a really, really dark one.
Mhm.
He told me to YouTube Hostel to Lorna's Death, which is played by the same girl from Princess Diaries. And it is, you should YouTube it after this. It is very dark and very mean spirited. And I was like, oh, wow. Because it's not what you expect from that actress. Like, she's always so like likable and fun. And the death was pretty terrible.
How long is it? Should I watch it now?
Yeah, you should watch it now.
I can give you my live reaction to this. Oh, she's like
Mhm.
hanging by a thing.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. There's a lot happening in this. Wow. That was something. Oh, and it's not done yet.
No, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So if you want to know what else she's been in Hostel 2
Mm.
and died very.
Yeah. So loyal listeners, I just looked it up on Megan's, I was gonna say your review, but kind of on your recommendation, I looked it up. That's I think the word we're looking for, your recommendation. You said, Nick, this is the best thing I've ever seen in cinema. And I said, wow, that's really crazy, Megan, that you'd say that, but sure. And it was shocking. So Prince Diaries girl, that's that in Hostel 2. That's something, Megan. Wow. I don't know. I'm not gonna say thank you for that. That's shocking, Megan.
Yeah, it might have been traumatizing. I wouldn't say it's the best thing in cinematic history, but it really blew my mind seeing that actress in a very, very different light.
Yeah, that's definitely not hanging out. Like, oh, you're gonna be a princess of Genovia.
Stomping around in those uniforms.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot about those movies, but I remember, I guess, the important parts, right? She's a princess now, and there's part with the sorbet. I remember the sorbet part. I always remember that, where they get like 2 brain freeze and everyone's doing the thing because they think they have to.
Yes. The first one's really good. I feel like the second one, they're in Genovia, but it's one of those like weird, they kind of just slapped a movie on screen.
Yeah.
There was like a sleepover slumber party. And I think they used beds as slides. That I remember.
Mm-hmm. Not a good movie, but I
No.
appreciate that the weird things they rolled with in that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Got to catch my breath after that one, Megan. Holy heck. All right. Woo. So I gotta say, gosh, that really shook me a little bit. Now I have to get back on track of our fun, lighthearted, scary movie. Not that thing. Hostel never really seemed like something I wanted to watch. And I don't think that convinced me to watch it. I'm glad you don't feel convinced to watch it either. That scene is enough for the whole franchise.
Oh, yeah. That was honestly way too much for the whole franchise.
Yeah, it was more than I needed. So I did kind of like the idea of, the especially because we're just talking about sequels being kind of iffy in Prince Diaries. After all, like the joke of horror movie sequels are rarely, I think, well received for the most part. I think the Scream franchise is pretty good as a whole, but for the most part, horror franchises are not known for having great sequels, and they're normally going on probably way more movies than they ever need to. But I think kind of having the play here of like, oh, no one cares about the sequels, and like your family with Deputy Hicks and her kid and that, the psycho thing, and like it just had some clever moments that just made me smile. But I think the one thing that probably didn't make anybody smile and probably shocked all of us, maybe not as much as the hostel scene that you just showed me, was when they killed Dewey. Like something, I don't know if I would have expected it. He escaped death. Like every time something happened, you're like, well, no matter what happens in these movies, riding off in the sunset in an ambulance, there'll be, Gail, Sydney, Dewey. And, that's the franchise. That's the important parts of the franchise. And I mean, they said it, right? They had to kill off one of the original members to add stakes to it. But normally, something will happen and, they always have to come back and shoot him in the head because they always come back. And I think like when it happened, you kind of felt like it wasn't going to go well for Dewey. And then like when the phone rang and then it happened, that was a lot. What reaction? That's the question. Reaction.
I mean, I really didn't think it was going to happen. I was like, I had some false sense of there's just no way they'll actually do it and actually kill him. But when he went back in I was like, ooh, that's it. He's Denzo. And I was devastated. He's so goofy and he's such a major part of the franchise. I was so sad. I shed a tear or two in the theater. It made me really emotional.
I wasn't ready for it. And I don't know if you know this, they did the production company made them shoot like one ending where he lived, but they're like kind of just casually did it without really caring. Like, yeah, we're never gonna use this, but they did make him shoot it, which like I don't know if Dewey coming back would have been okay. I would have liked it, but I feel like it had to happen, right? It had to.
Yeah, I would have liked it too, but it did raise the stakes. And I mean, he's lived a lot of almost deaths, so it did make sense.
I caught up with him. I mean, I don't know how much you were invested in the Suicide Squad movies, but I kind of felt the same way when Joel Kinnaman's character, there was no question he was like super dead. And I was like, huh. I didn't expect that coming. And kind of in the scary movie world, like when they killed off Judy Greer in the last Halloween. I don't know if that's a spoiler for you or not.
No, I watched it.
Okay, good. Because the extended cut makes it like even more obvious that she's definitely dead. Like there's a different end where it's just more obvious that she's not there. I was like, she seemed like the whole thing. And like, I get it. Like it's Jamie Lee Curtis's thing, but like, I liked that like family dynamic they had between like the 3 generations of like trauma passed down. And I thought Judy Greer had some really cool things. And I was like, I don't know. That movie kind of was a bummer. And Paul Rudd wasn't in it, which super bummer.
Wait, I need to watch this extended ending now because I didn't fully get the same. Like I wouldn't say she's fully. I was like, well, maybe there's a little hope, but okay, I need to watch this extended ending.
It's for sure available on YouTube. It's not like anything that's gonna like blow your mind, but it's like, okay, she's probably dead. I mean, anything's possible, but she looked dead.
I hope not. I wonder if they're gonna kill Jamie Lee Curtis in the final one.
They've done it 2 other times. I mean, I don't know if you remember, the first one was off camera and the second one was like they dropped her from a building.
Oh yeah.
And, like the weird Busta Rhymes one. I mean, Busta Rhymes, 10 out of 10 of that movie, but like it's a dumb movie. Love it, but awful.
Yeah.
Like terrible. What's up?
I was gonna say, can we talk about the Deputy Hicks and her son killing scene? Because that was so good.
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, look, I think we've brought it up a few times. Let's get into it. What's the vibe?
Okay, that had me on the edge of my seat, especially with like the fridge door opening and closing. But at one point I was like, are we going to finally get like a very bloody shower scene? And I kind of wanted that, but then I did think the way they did it was really good.
The amount of times that they kept like, oh, is he going to open his door? Nope. Oh, is he gonna this one? Nope. And it kept not. I'm right there with you. With the fact that it happened like 2 or 3 times, because the rule of 3, as you know, as a entertainment woman yourself, like you see it once, you see it twice, and it gets you on the 3rd time. That's like a writing thing. And they kept doing it like 1, 2, and then nothing happened, and then they got you on the fake out. But like I thought that was laid out very well, for sure.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I was actually on the edge of my seat.
It's weird that something like that was such a traumatic, that like the most like tense, the most tense part of the whole thing, especially because it was in broad daylight, which normally that means things are okay. And I kind of like that, I guess, at times that Scream felt like some of the scary things could happen when it was like bright outside. Like that was like, in normal scary movies, nothing happens when it's bright outside, right?
It was really weird. Full daylight. No one around. Very odd.
Yeah, I always will enjoy the fact that somehow they figure out, and that's, I guess, when it has to be 2 killers, right? When they like bounce around and like they make things happen, but one's here, the other one's there, and it kind of all plays out. It's a fun formula for sure. I'm glad I still like it. I know you do too. That's why I want to see the 6th one after all.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think the kind of going back to the Dewey thing, and I think it was we knew that there was going to have to be some like physical interaction between Gale and Dewey. Like, if they were going to kill someone off, they were obviously going to have to make something happen there. I think if they had them like him killed off before he saw either one of them, I think that would have been nuts. But obviously, I think the crazy thing is, when Sydney arrived is when Dewey died. So she never got to see him. And I think, for the emotional things, that's the thing I was always like, right? His thing is always, he comes out on the stretcher and, it's all good. And like I said, it screams a love story for some parts, but I guess in other parts, and it's about exploring trauma and overcoming, grief. And it's like free therapy. I say that a lot in this podcast. But I think, kind of like you said, one of your favorite things is about Nevi's growth, right? As a badass lady. She goes from, this teen who's not really like, she doesn't really like horror movies, and she's been through some stuff, but she's kind of doing her own thing. And by the end of it, she's like packing heat on a regular basis, and she can kind of like, she knows what's going on, and like it's a whole other vibe you get from her. And I mean, as a woman, right, what do you get from seeing kind of this, someone who's been through some stuff, and how she kind of blossoms into who she is, and like is a stronger person overall through, and has kind of overcome these things?
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome is the best way to say it. I feel like she has grown so much as I'd like to say human, but I'll say character. She's grown so much as a character. And I mean, she's not the damsel. Well, she was never really a damsel in distress, but she's not like the weaker girl she was. Now she's such a badass warrior woman defending other people. But I feel like that's what's so fun about these movies. Now she's like the mama bear, and there's the Sams and all the other kids where it's like she's able to really show them the way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm curious, like I said, I feel like I get that vibe, but as a woman, I feel like people think horror movies are kind of always to a degree about like, oh, how many people get killed off, and oh, everyone's running around and having sex and doing drugs. And it's kind of like, the Friday the 13th version of characters, not characters. It's such a, I feel like people, give the genre a bad rep sometimes, because there's some really good moments that if you really look into it. And I think we talked about Scream, and to the same degree with the later Halloweens kind of do that same vibe, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Scream in and of itself is a love story to me. It's like a love story to all horror movies. I mean, it's so meta, and there's always so many great references that it's like a movie that keeps on giving.
It's funny that you say that, because like one of the best thing is, obviously we talked, when you mentioned it, there's so many references to other genre things, but I think the weirdest thing that gives Scream kind of its niche, especially as it goes later, is its reference to like itself, right? There's a part about going to the basement alone where we had the whole fridge and garage door scene, and in this one it was a fake out. Or one of the Meeks nieces or nephews dying almost the exact same way that Randy almost died in the first one. Like the fact that they have this whole in-universe stab thing, and it all somehow relates to the first thing. Like they're talking about trivia for the stab movies. It's a whole reference of itself. I mean, I think for probably you included, the best part I remember of all the references, and I'll be curious if you have a different take, is when they found out it was Stu's house, because obviously we had no clue, and then it had that tilted camera where like everything was kind of, you knew something was wrong, and it's his house. Like, what was your kind of those kind of in reference things? What did it for you? What kind of was your aha moment?
I mean, I thought it was so cool that it ended in the same place, that Billy Loomis and Stu revealed themselves to be the original Ghostface, especially with Sam being Billy's daughter. And it was also so fun and such a nice touch to have Sydney back in the kitchen, because she's fighting for her life again, like she was years and years and years ago. And now she's just, like we said before, a total badass and has the experience. But I also thought it was fun to have Gail there to help her finish the job. It felt so full circle. And it was, I don't know, again, I got a little emotional. I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. Them like being badass together. Also don't understand how they were all stabbed and like bleeding and all being badass, but I accepted it and I loved it. And I thought it was really fun to watch.
I suspend my disbelief. Like when the girl got lit on fire and was still totally fine, like at a point you're just like, okay, that's fine. Like I could question it, but I could just be like, yeah.
Did you know that scene was a recreation of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
So I didn't know that until I looked it up, but I did. Like,
Same.
I don't know if that's my favorite Tarantino movie. I think it's a slower one, and I like a good slow burn, but I do remember watching that like last 15 minutes or so and being like, wow, like the part that I remember, and like the flamethrower part's great, where like either sleepy or drunk Leo comes out with this like movie flamethrower. But the part where Brad Pitt on like high on drugs, like dent someone's nose forward with a soup can, that was like, I think when I thought, I was blown away by like that like short moment. insane. The end of that movie was explosive.
It really was.
And you're referencing, of course, that the actress got lit on fire in that one too, right?
Yeah, it was the same actress, right?
Yep.
Okay, because yeah, I was reading about it afterwards and I was like, it just seems so familiar, but I didn't realize it was also the same exact actress.
It's fun the things that they can like do that aren't even related. They can just make it exist because why not, right?
Yeah, I feel like all the filmmakers are just true fans themselves.
I mean, and they, and it's not like we're talking about fans of like I'm trying to think of like a garbage franchise. I don't want to say garbage, but like at a point, Fast and Furious movies are kind of dumb. Like I enjoy them, but they're dumb.
Yeah, I mean, the cars are flying through high rises. They're like doing
Space.
flips in the air, space. Well, that's the rumor for the next one, right?
They've already been in space, been there, done that. Like only for a little bit, but like
Oh my gosh, then I haven't seen the last one. That's right around when I stopped working at NBC, but I need to watch it because I didn't realize we went to space.
yeah, just for a little bit, but like it's
So then the next one's going to be like full space.
or they're talking about a Jurassic Park crossover too.
Oh,
So who knows with that franchise anymore? It's they can do whatever. That's one where it's hard to suspend disbelief, I would say.
yeah. You're in a fantasy world.
Yeah, it's something. But I gotta say, I mean, it all comes back to the reference in and of itself. And I think when they were like shooting all the different hiding places from the first one, I just thought there were so many moments that I was just like, how fun. But I really expected like the amount of people who survived. I was shocked at how many people kept popping out of the woodwork. And like, I know Dewey didn't make it, but like, and like they were not going to kill off Sydney and Gale in the same. You're not going to kill off Gale in the same movie. I mean, that would be like Game of Thrones level crazy. But I think, with all the franchise reboot backlash, because people have been doing this for the past 10 years, right? That's been the thing of bringing back old franchises and seeing what stick. And a lot of them haven't stuck, I would say. I mean, even the part where, they're the frame job of blaming the girl's dad, like, oh, it's a serial killer in her. I mean, there's just so much to talk about with Scream. I guess the question I'm asking you as I word vomit Scream things is what did you think? I don't know how much I like the motivation because I get it, right? Some movies are bad, but that might be a little much. But in this universe, maybe it makes sense. What did you think of the final ends of the two killers, the aggressive, gory ends?
Okay, so Scream movies are always so smart with the amount of there's always social media and message boards that connect fans online. So it was kind of a fun spin on bringing some of the backlash against other movies as the main driving point for this one. Scream has always been meta with commentary on the state of horror, but looking at the bigger picture of movies in general, fans get so pissed when an old franchise is resurrected and it doesn't go the way the fans want. And Scream used that as a way to essentially remake the first movie. It felt like it spoke directly to the fans who browse on Reddit or Twitter to discuss the movie, which I thought was really fun and it was different. It was innovative.
The amount of sequel backlash I feel like that's been going on. I mean, I don't know what your because obviously you didn't see Matrix, but I don't know what your take on like Ghostbusters Afterlife or like the latest Star Wars is. It feels like people can't catch a break with their I can't think of the last like other than the Space Jam was awful. I can't think of the last like sequel that was like long overdue, but like good. I don't know if you can think of anything because I sure can't.
Yeah, honestly, I can't. And I think that's what made this so great is because I don't know, personally, my expectations are just so low that I was excited, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to be like too hyped up and have it devastate me. And I was blown away.
I right there with you. And I was hoping for something good. I felt pretty good about it. I think the all-encompassing product of Scream 5 was good. And like, look, I liked the last Spider-Man too. I think that was all-encompassing of like decades of Spider-Mans. But for something that was a little more, there's no other weird franchises coming together. I feel like sometimes we can get lost in the excitement of everything coming together. But I think this culmination of Scream was the perfect amount of like bringing everyone together and still making a good movie that wasn't just going off nostalgia. It still did its own thing. And with that in mind, to the all-encompassing parts at hand, are you familiar with Letterboxd, Megan, the movie website?
No. What is it?
It's a website that you can think of it as social media for movie people and some miniseries. As you can rate things, you can see what other friends are rating and what people are watching. And it's kind of like a fun social media, but less drama unless you're talking like heated debates about how good or bad movies are. Highly recommend it. So
I need to check it out.
Well, it's good that you're gonna check it out because this is gonna be we're gonna play a game, right? What we do on the show is we always give our letterbox rating. Now, IMDb, it's out of 10, so it's number scale. Letterbox does a out of 5-star scale, and there can be half stars. I guess there could be 3/4 if you want for this exercise, but in when you do make your own letterbox account, it's not gonna fly. But for our purposes, you can do what you will. So Megan, out of 5 stars, what do you rate this and why?
Okay, well, if we aren't doing it by letterbox rules, I would give it a 4.75. And I know that's really generous, but I felt like they did such a good job. It was a love note to the fans. That would be the best way to describe it. And I loved every second. So 4.75 is my final answer.
Locked in. Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I'm right there with you. I'm going to stick to the letterbox scale because I do adhere to that because I do have to I did already put it into the website. But I put it at a 4.5. I'm not a art film guy to the same degree, right? I'm not going to go out here and say, oh, I got to go watch, what's that movie that everyone talks about? It's like a black and white movie that's like, oh, it's the best movie ever. Citizen Kane, right? I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's the only good movie that's ever happened. Like, and I like black and white movies. Casablanca, sublime, but I thought this was a really good movie. I think it did everything it set out to do. It exceeded expectations. If it ends here, cool. We know it's not going to end here, of course. But if it had to end here, I think this was a better end to the movies as opposed to like Scream 4, even Scream 3. I think neither of those were like great ends. And like you said, it was just fun. It had the formula, but it did its own thing. And it kept me guessing. Some of the kills were like, holy heck. It was a good movie. I'm right there with you, Meg. And I'm glad we're on the same page of our appreciation for Scream 5 and hopefully Scream 6 coming out soon, right?
Yes, I'm so excited for the next one. And I love this one.
Well, thankfully, not like the Scream franchise. We got more ahead of us, but this I was going to say coast to coast because I used to say that back on the East Coast life, but now it's coast to, I guess, Midwest crossover. This was an amazing time. I'm happy we got you on your first podcast, of course, and catch up on life. We did a little catch up too. But this was a pop culture palooza that we talked about and watched, and it disguised as a horror movie to a degree too. But I gotta ask, final thought on Scream 5, and if you had to convince someone, or what kind of person would like Scream 5, who would it be?
I mean, honestly, everybody. I feel like Scream 5 would hit every box, new fans and old fans, because you get horror, suspense, gore, comedy. It's a fun ride. And I think it's the perfect blend of old and new characters, which obviously works for new fans as well. And it's great for old fans. And there are so many nodes and critiques of where the state of the film industry is currently with requels. And that made it really fun too. Because I mean, as we just talked about, there are no great requels or sequels or reboots or whatever it is. There are just not many of them these days. So yeah, I think everybody.
Well, I got to ask you don't think this is too scary for, like, someone who's maybe not into horror as much, do you think they can still work with the Scream franchise? Like, what do you think?
I mean, it's definitely would be borderline, but I feel like there is enough goofiness and funniness and just lightheartedness in between. There's definitely gore, obviously, but I feel like there is a good balance, but it's borderline. If you're so anti anything stabbing or gore, then obviously not for you, but also grow some balls and watch Scream 5.
That's it. That's it right there. That's the end stamp. No, I think Scream really is, if you're looking for a franchise, especially knowing that, you have pretty solid entries. It gets a little wonky around 3 and 4, but I think this is a good comeback. I think this is a franchise that really can get people into the horror franchise, knowing that there are other elements outside of just, it's a scary movie with ladies that float around in their heads twist around and they throw up all over the place, or like big spider movies. Like, there's more to this movie than your average random horror nonsense, even though you and I probably do like some of the horror nonsense as well. I think if you liked any of the previous movies, the shows. I think it's all in the same family. I just think this is a good franchise in general. I think you should get on it. Not you, of course, but the listeners, because you're all about the Scream franchise now. You've adopted it as your own. Thank you to the outstanding guest we had on the show, Megan, for joining us to talk about one of my favorite things. I continue to have a blast with these movies, and I know you do too. It takes the standard mass slasher villain and makes something of a fun, quirky whodunit that still has the gore and scares you want out of something like this. Now, if you guys want to keep up with what we're doing, of course, you can follow me on either knickknack_IC or knickknack movies on every social media platform or everywhere. And Megan, where can people follow you along on social?
They can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Megan Klembith with 2 H's, or my foodie account, Klembitch Foodies, where you can find some fun, healthy recipes.
We'll have to put the link in there as well, because it's not often we have a food fitness influencer on the podcast like you. This is a fun cross brand build we got going here.
For sure.
If you ever want to have me on a live stream where I can attempt to cook things,
I feel like that has to be the next thing.
It's the next crossover outside of the Disney singing thing, of course. The Disney musical thing is super important, and we'll make a note that Jesse's got to be on that too. Fact.
Yeah, we'll make her. And then I'll teach you how to cook something while talking about movies.
That would probably, the internet wouldn't be able to handle that, I don't think.
No, we'll break the internet.
We'll break the internet for sure. Make sure, guys, listeners, you loyal listeners, you to check in on all manner of social platforms to see what Megan's doing with the food life and to see what we're brewing up on this one-stop shop movie, television, and pop culture podcast. What February movies are y'all excited for? I hope Uncharted's good, but video game movies are trash. And Death of Nile looks good, but it's probably also going to be bad. I don't know. Megan, tell us about this rom-com again with Owen Wilson and J-Lo.
Okay, I mean, the concept is honestly terrible. And the whole movie sounds bad, but I love J-Lo movies, and I'm so excited for Marry Me. You know you're going to get a fun, enjoyable watch, and I really hope Owen Wilson does well. We'll see.
It's as good a pitch as any. Tis the season for Valentine's Day, after all.
Yes.
well, we're going to talk about our love for movies more as we go, but I got to tell you guys, if you have any good February movies, throw them out there. Hit them up on social. We'd love to see them. But as always, cheers, and until next time, cinephiles.
Are you not entertained? I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I don't like goodbyes. Let's just call this see you later, alligator.
Your favorite Wisconsinner who doesn't like cheese.